Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Saturday, May the 10th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith from Chicago, and we have Kyle Bond back with us on another Saturday edition here of the show. Once played in Chicago for the Blackhawks organization for a bit. So Chicago connections here on the Saturday edition of the show. What a night it was in the Stanley Cup playoffs last night. Two really good hockey games. Actually, the Dallas-Winnipeg, when Winnipeg got in front, they kind of put it on cruise control. That game kind of tailed off, but as far as the excitement level, the drama, as Winnipeg was in firm control, but it's still a pretty good game. The first game, I mean, what can you say? The Leafs and the Panthers. This has been, and likely will be, the best series of the second round. It's going to take something astronomical in the other three series to knock this series out of its perch to be the best series, most entertaining, the most electric series of the second round. Maybe Edmonton-Vegas could still get there because I thought Game 2 of Edmonton-Vegas was a really good game. You never know. Dallas-Winnipeg was a good Game 1, not as good a Game 2. I'm not even going to put Washington-Carolina in the contenders category. That series got to pick it up 10 times for it to even be in the conversation. But Toronto and Florida has been a phenomenal series. You couldn't have drawn up a better start to the game for Toronto last night, and it even stunned me. To go up 2-0 in the first few minutes, get the first goal from Matthew Knies 23 seconds into the game. It was just an absolutely incredible start for the Leafs, and they took a lot of the wind out of the sails of that building in Florida. But Florida answered back, albeit an own goal from Morgan Rielly, who had three goals, and two of them counted for the other team last night. Morgan Rielly scored one, and then, of course, two of Florida's goals go in off Morgan Rielly's body or stick. And the first one, of course, was Barkov's to make it 2-1, get Florida back in it at that point in the game. And then, of course, Toronto ends up going back ahead by a score of 3-1 early in the second period. And then Florida responds quickly just when it looks like the Leafs have got control of the game again, and they tie it 3-3 and then go ahead 4-3. For Joseph Woll, I thought for most of the game he was pretty solid, but the fourth goal he's got to stop. That's the one he's going to lament looking back on that game last night. The Nosek shot has to be a save. Got to make that save there. No screen, short side goal, and that gave the Panthers a 4-3 lead at that point. And then at the intermission, I was debating, do I bet the Leafs to score the next goal? Because we know this team doesn't go away, and they've responded time and time again throughout these playoffs. And I said, they're not going away, even though they're down 4-3. Do I just bet the Leafs to get the next goal, or do I bet the draw live? The Leafs to get the next goal was a pretty good price, plus 160 or so. But I could get the draw at plus 340 after the second intermission. I said, I'm going for the better price. And we're due for an overtime game. That's what I said. So I bet it at plus 340 at the intermission. And sure enough, of course, Morgan Rielly ties it, but it goes in, of course, off a Florida player to tie it 4-4. We do get to overtime. And notice my pattern on this show lately. I bust out the draw season T-shirt when we have a overtime game the night before. I have done that every single show when there's been an overtime game the night before. And we're going to keep the trend rolling throughout the playoffs. If there's an overtime game the night before, we're rocking this draw season. And, of course, we got overtime in that Toronto-Florida game. It was a great overtime. And I got to tip my cap, Kyle, as a Leafs fan, I'm sure that was disgruntled seeing it in overtime. You'll agree, though, and Alex, you as well. Sergei Bobrovsky's not had a good series overall. Goalie Bob has struggled. He didn't have a great Game 1 or Game 2, and most of Game 3 was okay, not great. But I do think he got better as the game went on. And more importantly, in overtime, two gigantic saves, one on William Nylander and one on Matthew Knies. Both had partial breakaways in overtime, and Sergei Bobrovsky stopped both of them. Huge stops for a guy that has not had his greatest series and not played really anywhere close to the level we saw in the run to the Stanley Cup championship last year. That's why he's a great goalie. He knows he's not been good enough. And you could sense maybe the confidence chipping away at him. But with the game on the line, maybe the season on the line for the Florida Panthers in that game, because if they lose that game, go down 3-0, it might be over for them. He made 2 huge saves in overtime on near breakaways on Nyes and Nylander. Terrific saves. And then, of course, a few minutes later, Florida started to put consecutive shifts together in the Toronto zone. And they ended up, of course, eventually getting the Brad Marchand of all fucking people for Leaf fans to see end it in overtime. Brad Marchand again. A fluky bounce, a lucky break, absolutely. Off Morgan Riley and in for the game winner. No chance for Joseph Woll on that. But we have ourselves a series. 2-1 Leafs after the Panthers get a must-get Game 3 in overtime, and another just terrific hockey game in this series between these two teams. And I know Leaf fans and the ones that really like ragging on the Leafs are saying the Leafs choked again. The Leafs did not choke again. That's a bunch of nonsense. They played a hell of a game on the road last night. They could have easily won that game. There's not really much they wanted to change. They went toe-to-toe in a spot where Florida was going to throw daggers at them, trying to avoid going down 3-0. And the Leafs were still right there to win that game. The only thing they'll feel upset about is we had 2-0 and 3-1 leads. We couldn't win the game, but it's not a choke. Get that word out of your system about last night for the Leafs. Not a choke. Florida brought everything they could had at them, and Toronto was right there with them in a max desperation spot for the Panthers. The Leafs were right there with them to win that game. It's not a choke. In my opinion. I know people love just banging on the Leafs, bashing on the Leafs constantly. Not a choke. Not a choke. You can say if maybe they're down, 5-1 in game 5 or 6, if they're trying to close out the series and they blow that game and lose game 7, then you can call it a choke. Then you can probably have some backing and some street cred to call it that. Last night was not that. Last night was just one of those games where Florida dug down, and the Leafs were still right there with them in a game where Florida had to throw everything at Toronto. So, like I said, great win by Florida. Heart of a champion showing. Really, it showed multiple times heart of a champion for the Florida Panthers last night. Down 2 goals twice and still find a way to win that game. Alex, it was another great game in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you can't call this a choke, but now you have to avoid losing game 4. Yeah. Because that's when you start getting into
then the pressure shifts. Area. They're not in trouble. No, nobody's in trouble in this series right now until a home team loses. That's what this series has become, with the home team winning.
Yeah, but we say that, and we love to say that, but at the same time, if you can't win on the road, then you're kind of in trouble. So, and especially if you don't have home ice advantage. So, like I said, but it was a competitive hockey game. It was a good back and forth battle. It wasn't something where, like you said, yes, you blew a 3-1 lead. Okay, that happens all the time. But the fact that you tied the game up still showed that you're in the fight.
That's why it's not a choke. They were down 4-3 in the third, and they tied the game.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So it was just a good, competitive, balanced game that you want to see in the playoffs, and Florida happened to win it.
No doubt. By the way, Florida, and this is Florida. I don't hate them for it or fault them for it. I think it's just, it's the way they play. This is tooth for a tooth and eye for an eye. They will do anything physically and violently to beat up the other team. I'm seeing Tkachuk, and it doesn't matter who it is, anybody on that team. Mikola's doing it. Ekblad did it a bunch. Just elbowing guys after the whistle, just that extra whack with the stick, an extra little push from behind, a little punch in the face. I saw Anton Lundell absolutely run Mitch Marner into the boards way after the whistle on one play last night. They're a fucking dirty team. They are a dirty team as far as getting, just the subtle shit.
Right.
A little extra punch after the whistle, little extra cross check, but basically Lundell just ramming Marner into the boards way after the whistle. And that's what they do, though. You've got to deal with it if you're Toronto. You've got to not snap at the other team because of it. You've got to kind of take your lumps, and you hit them physically, but the retaliation shit always gets called. And yes, it could feel like Florida's getting away with a few things, but if you retaliate, you're the one that's going to the penalty box. I've watched this sport for 30 years. That's how it works. So Toronto's got to maintain their cool, even though I'm sure they want to wring the neck of some of these guys.
Yeah. And the thing about that too is That's the veteran presence, right? Like that's what we talk about. We talk about playoff experiences.
Yeah.
Knowing how, knowing that those hits add up over in a series. Knowing how to hit guys, when the timing to hit guys and not get caught. Those things you don't you can play this game for 20 years, but you have to be in those situations to learn and actually go through that. And am I right, Kyle? That's something that you develop over time, knowing when and how to play physical and even dirty at those times in a playoff series.
100%. I think the way you could see it last game specifically, like Florida was just throwing the body every single time the Leafs touched the puck, and the Leafs continued to stay in the fight. I like that they stuck to their game. They continued to just sort of focus. But I will say, and in the second period specifically, I know there was some line matchups that Florida intentionally changed to get Barkov and Reinhart away from the Matthews line. But it like Nylander, Tavares line seemed to sort of disappear a little bit, and like that's where you start to get nervous because like game in, game out, every time you touch the puck, now you're thinking who's coming to run me, even if it's not obvious, right? It's like I know someone's coming to get me. And so to your point, in a 7-game series, especially a series that's like back and forth, so tight, oftentimes you will see that like that being the difference maker. And it's like Tanev disappeared for a little bit. He's been an absolute warrior. Like that's what the Leafs have been missing in the past years. But how much can that guy just keep eating it night in, night out and still being impactful without sort of having like just you can't play with any sort of thoughts in your head, in the back of your head, even if it's like not at the front. It's just, but then it's just like get rid of the puck, and then all of a sudden they can't break the puck out, and that's when Florida starts rolling. To the point about the home ice advantage, it's like I think it's actually showing here pretty clearly, and it's like that coaching change probably was really a big part of the reason why Florida ended up winning that game. So yeah, no, I'm excited. Definitely the best series. I very well can see this going to 7 games, and as we all know, those are really a coin flip.
Yeah, no question, no doubt about it. And by the way, the Paul Maurice, and that's what Kyle is referring to, just these little subtle moves in the lineup with Paul Maurice. It really, he's one hell of a coach too, obviously, and they worked for the most part. Last night, when you see obviously what they got from Nosek, Greer, and Gadjevich was a very effective fourth line last night for the Florida Panthers. Hard, physical. Nosek gets a goal. Of course, Lusterine, Lundell, and Marchand, which is a line, again, Paul put together. They've been arguably the best line in this series for the Florida Panthers. We finally saw Verhaeghe get going last night. Rodriguez, Barkov, and Reinhart had a much better night. All 4 lines were good last night for Florida, unlike the first 2 games. That ended up being the difference maker for them in the end. So great job by them. Ekblad and Forsling were really, really good last night, the top pair for the Florida Panthers. So great win for Florida, and buckle up, strap in. I'm sure Kyle was hoping for, a quick series, an easy series. He was hoping, he probably wasn't thinking it was going to be a quick and easy series, but he was hoping for it. We're not going to get a quick and easy series here. It's going to be a long one. It's going to be a battle right till the end. And we're just getting started. Would not shock me if we have 4 more games in this series. It really would not. Starting to feel like it's got 6 and 7 written all over it. And yes, again, I think here Joe Wool's save percentages are not great. They aren't, but neither are Bob's. Neither are Bob's in this series. And to me, Wool played well after giving up the 1 weak goal. I don't think it's totally his fault. There were a lot of goals that, kind of couldn't do anything about it. The goal that tied the game 3-3, that was old Mitch Marner. Old bad habits Mitch Marner coming out to play. Yeah. Blowing the zone when the puck's not out of the zone yet, looking for his offense. And he's leaving the zone when Benoit's battling there at the boards, trying to get it out, doesn't get out, and he's leaving the zone. And then next thing you know, it's a down low 2-on-1. And that ended up being the 3-3 goal. So, and Craig Berube will see that. Mitch Marner will see it. I'm sure he knows it. Those are the old bad Mitch Marner defensive habits. And we haven't seen much of that from him in these playoffs until that moment. So he knows he fucked up there. Sure, you don't have to tell him. And TNT was right on top of that in the intermission. It was one of the things they showed, I think, Paul Bissonnette in the one of the intermissions. And That's old Mitch Marner coming out a little bit there. Bad habits, but he hasn't had many of those here in these playoffs. And then in the second game, we have to start with the shout out to yesterday's guest, Matt Geitka, who called Connor Hellebuck shutout plus 700 as his best bet on the show yesterday. First ever goalie shutout best bet in Ice Guys show history. And it cashes in the very first time it was used as a best bet. I didn't believe Connor Hellebuck could get a shutout. I thought he would play solid, and he's certainly been better at home. It's the only place he's been any good here in the playoffs is at home. But he was excellent last night. We cannot say anything more than that. He was terrific. He had to make some really good saves, some excellent saves. He robbed Dadonov with a glove save, when it was still, I think, 2 or 3-0 Winnipeg at the time, and there was still at least a little smidget of hope for Dallas to come back. He was terrific. And Winnipeg had the start you expected. They jumped on Dallas early. They got the quick 2-0 lead, very quick in that game with the goals by Gabe Velarde and Nick Ehlers. Nick Ehlers stepped it up. And John Massey, our guy, is taking credit, saying, I kind of called out Nikolai Ehlers. Where's he been? And John's saying, what a great motivator I am. But nevertheless, he was right. Nikolai Ehlers was not playing great, and he had a hell of a game last night. That's the Nikolai Ehlers we know, and that's the Nikolai Ehlers that Winnipeg needs. He was great. Scheifele was great. Like I said, all the big players stepped up. Velarde got the first goal of the game. That line was outstanding, him, Connor, and Scheifele. And, of course, for Alex B. Smith, Adam Lowry, the captain, steps up with a goal later in the game. That's what he does when his team needs it the most. I find Adam Lowry always seems to make an impact, and he did that again. You can be a Winnipeg Jets fan. You can be a Winnipeg Jets hater. And even if you're a Jets hater, you cannot hate Adam Lowry. He is one of my favorite captains in the NHL. Does it all. Physical, fights, scores, face-offs, defensive ability, effort, hustle, compete. He's all those things, Adam Lowry. Leader, he is all those things, Adam Lowry. One of my favorite captains in the sport. And great job by him last night. Great job by the Jets. They were the better team start to finish. They got the quick start, the fast start out of the gates they needed, and they rolled to a 4-0 shutout win over the Dallas Stars. And kudos to Connor Hellebuck. Great performance, much needed for his confidence. A shutout, an absolutely terrific call by Matt yesterday on the show. But waiting right around the corner is a trip to Dallas and a pair of road games where Connor Hellebuck is 1-9 in his last 10 road playoff games. You know what the goals against in those road playoff games is? 5.4. Absolutely atrocious. 5.4 goals against average in those 10 road playoff games where he is 1-9. And not only 1-9 in the last 10 road playoff games, in his last 4 road playoff games, all of them losses, he's been pulled from the game. In each of his last 4 road playoff games. So you talk about, he's got his confidence a little bit and some mojo back after last night. He's got the demons calling on him all over again going into game 3, those road demons. This is going to be just a fascinating pair of games to watch in Dallas. Can Connor Hellebuck slay the road demons, slay the road beasts, or is it going to be the same old shit? Hellebuck getting lit up like a Christmas tree on the road in Dallas like he was in St. Louis. Remember, the Jets went 0-3 in St. Louis in that series, and they got lit up by the Blues offensively, and specifically Connor Hellebuck. That's the biggest question moving forward. Can he slay the road dragons? All I will say going into tomorrow, and we'll talk more about the specific game tomorrow, game 3, I'll believe it when I see it. When it comes to Connor Hellebuck playing well I got to see it first before I believe it. Alex, your thoughts on a big game 2 win for Winnipeg, a game they had to have?
Absolutely. And I felt confident that they could win the game, but certainly I feel confident as Matt with that shutout. That is just absolutely amazing. And I was just hoping that it would come through watching the last 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, we got the win. It seems like let's go on and get this shutout from Matt. So that was a really cool thing and a great moment for the show. First bargain bin shutout ever. That we've done even before the bargain bin. I don't think anybody's ever hit a shutout prop, so that's fantastic. But great game, and you look at I always do this. Look at the shot charts. You look at Winnipeg, everything down low, right around the goal line. Very
traffic
efficient
and
with their
chaos
shot.
In front of
Traffic, absolutely, and that's the way you beat him, and that was fantastic. Meanwhile, it's Stevie's dartboard on the Dallas side. They just shots from all over the place, and they've got to tighten that up. And that's how this series is going to go from here on out. Whoever can really get the higher quality of shots. We talk about shot volume all the time. Carolina 200 shots a game, and then they score 2 goals. You have to have high quality shots when you're talking about facing Connor Hellebuck, when you're talking about facing Jake Oettinger. And I think that's what we're going to see now. Now might be the time where we can see things maybe kind of slow down a little bit. I wouldn't be rushing to bet a lot of overs as this series shifts scenes. Now, the caveat of that is, like you said, Hellebuck. You take Dorothy out of Kansas, shit gets weird. So if he can't find a way to win, and that's the way I bet this. I bet that Dallas would win game 3 and 4 based on my exact series bet that I made before. So if he can't figure it out, they're in trouble, and that's going to be the big key. So game 3 is a pivotal game for Winnipeg. They have to try and get the best of Hellebuck, and they have to try and get to Oettinger early, get down low, and create a lot of chaos. They have to do exactly what Winnipeg did in game 2. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be interesting when we see that series shift.
That's stunning that it's been not just any more than 1-9 road record in the playoffs the last 10 for Hellebuck. It's 4 straight road playoff games. The guy's been yanked.
Yeah.
The guy's been pulled from the game. I mean, that's how bad it's been. My gosh, it's just absolutely. And one last point about this game. Mikko Rantanen, he's back down to earth. He's human, folks. And Adam Lowry in the pregame show said it in the interview. He said, Mikko Rantanen, he just destroyed us in game 1 with the hat trick, and it said we have to contain him and we have to be on him all night, make it a tough night on him. That's what his exact words were, and they made it a tough night on him. I thought they defended him extremely well. He didn't get the same room to do much last night in that game. He only had 1 shot on goal in that game. No points, held off the score sheet, a -2, took a really bad penalty in that game as well, Mikko Rantanen. So he's human, folks. He's not going to, believe it or not, he's not going to score a hat trick every night. Believe it or not, he's not going to get 14 points in every 4-game span for the rest of his career. So credit to the Jets. They said they had to contain Rantanen. They said they had to do a better job on him in game 2, and they did just that. And the captain, Adam Lowry, led the way. Kyle, your thoughts on Dallas-Winnipeg last night?
Not totally surprising. I think Winnipeg kind of laid an egg in game 1, and they're obviously at home, and it's like the whiteout and Winnipeg. I mean, no offense to anyone from Winnipeg. My mom's from Winnipeg, love Winnipeg, but there's just not a ton going on in Winnipeg. Like, this is what they got. And so to sort of lay an egg
that's
like
not
that,
insulting. That's just fact. Yeah.
That's tough. So you knew there was going to be an answer, and I think no surprise that they ultimately won the game. Obviously, the shutout was a key part in that. I think moving forward here, to Alex's point, it's quality shots, but I think it's really just going to be traffic. It's like you look at the Leafs Florida game, like all these goals they're not pretty goals, but it's getting pucks to the net, but also having people there battling in front for position and executing on those chances. And as you get deeper into the playoffs, I think that becomes more and more of a theme. And the reality is these goalies are so big. If they can see the puck, and I don't care how good of a shot you have. Obviously, there's the odd exception, like we saw the 4th goal from Nosek in the Leafs game, but for the most part, like, those aren't going in, and so it's really going to be the team that's getting traffic in front. I didn't realize the question marks around Hellebuck's road track record as of late, but assuming he can hold his own, and hopefully you got to think the shutout helps build some confidence moving forward, but obviously the big question mark moving forward.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, you're probably aware that they were 0-3 on the road with Hellebuck in the St. Louis series. What you're saying is you weren't aware it was that bad, that fucking awful, that fucking horrific.
Going back 10 games.
My gosh, this goes back 3 playoff years. Mm-hmm. First round of Colorado last year, where they got knocked out. First round against Vegas 2 years ago, where they got knocked out. Where it's just been on the road.
It's tough to win when, you look at the teams who have been in the Stanley Cup Finals over the past 4 or 5 years, whatever. Going back past that, your goaltending just needs to be solid through and through.
Yeah, no question. And he's just definitely had his share of struggles as far as that's concerned. It looks like we have some breaking news to report about a key injury situation in one of these series. So breaking news right now.
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
All right, breaking news indeed, and this is for the Leafs and the Panthers series. Anthony Stolarz, it's not really shocking news to me, but he's unlikely to return for the remainder of the series against the Florida Panthers. In fact, he hasn't even begun skating just yet. So that is definitely something to look for. But definitely Anthony Stolarz not coming back in this Leafs versus Panthers series. So generally is what I thought. The more this was going on, he didn't even trade, he didn't even travel, I should say, with the team to Florida for these 2 games. So I kind of figured that's a sign that he's definitely not coming back in the 2 games in Florida. But it was starting to lead me to believe that, Anthony Stolarz is probably not coming back at any point in this series. Like, he hasn't even begun skating on his own yet from the whatever happened to him in game 1. You can debate it all you want. Was it the Sam Bennett contact? Was it the puck he took high in the head area, the mask area in game 1? But the bottom line is, whatever affected him and caused him to puke, they got the fucking puke bucket out for him there on the bench, and he is throwing up there. So Stolarz done for the series. And now it's just a question of, if the Leafs advance to the conference finals, will he be available for that series? That's still up in the air, but we will not see Anthony Stolarz for the remainder of this Toronto. So it's Joe Woll, sink or swim with Joseph Woll for the rest of the series here for the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Florida Panthers. And there is actually some more breaking news that I'm seeing. This is a huge development. Calvin Pickard not on the ice for the morning skate for the Oilers tonight prior to Game 3 in Edmonton. Stuart Skinner, a chance he's back in net tonight for the Edmonton Oilers, who has not had a great play. He was not good in the first 2 games that we saw. Remember, 2-0 deficit against LA. Those were the 2 games that Skinner started. Now, it's not just all on him, but he didn't play good. The whole team struggled defensively. This is a defense that's played better in these recent games. So maybe that opens the door. Skinner will be better this time around, but there's a chance that Skinner starts tonight. Pickard hasn't been ruled out yet, but we're starting to see more and more that it might be a Stuart Skinner night. He's in the starter's crease. Calvin Pickard's not on the ice from all these images I'm seeing. So I think we're seeing our guy back in net tonight. Skinner, he will be back here for the Edmonton Oilers tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, again, we'll talk about this in a sec more because we're going to be talking Edmonton, Vegas, but we'll get into it more there. But I'll just say that the Edmonton Blue Line's gotten brick by brick better and better and better throughout these playoffs. Unlike the mess and the shit show they were early in the LA series when Skinner was fed to the Wolves a bit by that struggling Blue Line. So maybe with the Blue Line playing better and with more confidence, it's going to lead to Skinner playing better tonight if he indeed gets the start in net, which it looks like he will. But we will get to that more in depth in just a moment. We will begin our 2 Saturday games with Washington and Carolina. Series tied 1-1. The first game of today's doubleheader. We got Carolina minus 250, home favorites, 5.5 the total here in this game. The Carolina Hurricanes dominated game 1, and they did it with just relentless amount of time in the offensive zone. It felt like Washington couldn't even get the puck out of the zone for most of that game. Now, even though Protas got the first goal, Carolina battled back, tied it, and then they won in overtime on the Jacob Slavin seeing eye shot. I thought Washington was better in game 2. They weren't hemmed in their own zone for the whole game like they were in game 2. And they started that game pretty slow as well. But gradually as the game went on, they got better. They got stronger. They ended up, obviously, cashing in on the first goal from Connor McMichael, turnover in the neutral zone. What a hell of a shot it was, too, to beat Freddie Anderson. Just a terrific, perfect shot. And then, of course, a great power play goal to give them a 2-0 lead. Carolina cuts the deficit to 2-1, but that's as close as they would get. Capitals put it away with an empty net goal, and they win game 2, 3-1 to tie up the series. One thing that's worth noting about that game is the Capitals only getting outshot 28-21. So the shot, margin was much closer. Washington was not in their own zone anywhere close to the amount of time, the amount of minutes they were in game 1. There was much more physical and emotion in the game, physicality and emotion in that game for Washington. I thought they were sleepwalking. They looked like a bunch of ghosts out there in game one against Carolina. They really upped that ante as far as the emotional and physical element, and Tom Wilson was in on everything. It felt like every big hit. He was in the scrums after the whistle, and Washington elevated their game. But Carolina will push back strong, and Carolina has been for years under Rod Brindamore an outstanding home team. Their home record in the regular season this year, 30. Actually, if you include the playoffs too, 34-9-1. Pretty damn impressive here at Lenovo Center. In Raleigh. Obviously, in the first round against New Jersey, they swept their home games. They won game 1, 4-1, game 2, 3-1, and then they closed out the series in game 5 with that 5-4 overtime win. That's the game Jacob Markstrom is the only reason. That game went to overtime against New Jersey. But 3-0 in the playoffs at home. The problem is the price. All of that is great. I expect Carolina's probably got a really good chance to win this game. They're at home. They're off a loss. They've been 3-0 in the playoffs at home. But you do have to factor in just a little bit. 3-0 against New Jersey, decimated on the blue line, and no Jack Hughes. You have to factor that in. Yes, they're 3-0 at home in the playoffs, but, New Jersey team that was just ripe for the picking, if you will. No question. I do still think Carolina is a touch inflated. So I'm going to I have to take a little Washington at plus 200. I do. And this is not, I don't feel strong about Washington winning this game. I think it's very possible Carolina bounces back and wins this hockey game because they played two pretty solid games. They didn't play as well in game 2, but to me, it's just a little inflated here on the Canes, in this minus 250 price range. I think 200 is a little value here with Washington, but I do like Carolina scoring in the first period. The angle's been great. The team that lost the previous game, I think, Kyle, you heard about this the last time you were on the show with us. The team that loses the previous game scoring in the first period has been money. It's been phenomenal. Jonathan has the exact records, but off the top of my head, I think it's like 31-13 or something like that. And it was 2-0 last night. Florida scored in the first period off a loss, and Winnipeg scored in the first period last night off a loss. It's been great. So I'm going to go back to the well. Carolina to get a goal in the first period. It's around minus 150, the price with that. It's not great, but like I said, it's not juice if it wins, right? You don't pay the juice if it wins. And these bets have been winning, more often than not with the team that lost previous game of the series getting on the board in the first period. So we'll lay the big number. It's actually gone up a little bit. Holy shit, because you're right, the money's come in on Carolina. It's up to minus 175, minus 180 now. Holy shit, with the first period. We'll lay it. I did, I laid it with Florida, and it was a pretty big price last night too. So we'll lay it. Like I said, it's a terrific angle, and I expect Carolina to get on the board early. But I'm not touching any more overs in this series. No, not doing it. I think the goaltending from Thompson's been too good. There's not been a lot of flow, and there's not been a lot of rush chances in this series. There really hasn't been. The teams have had to execute offensively 5-on-5 defense. There's not really been a lot of counters. There's not really been a lot of pace. There was a period of time where in game 2 where there was a little flow and a little back and forth for a bit, but most of that game was pretty stagnant, and slower paced. So 2 unders in this series already. You had a 2-1 game and a 3-1 game, and the 3-1 game had an empty net goal to make it 3-1. So really it was 3, natural goals, if you will, in game 2. So that's the only thing I have pregame is Carolina to score in the first period, and I also have a piece of the draw here in this game, along with the piece of Washington at plus 200 here in this one as well. So little Washington, little draw, and probably heaviest on Carolina to get a first period goal is what I'm like. It's one thing they do in Carolina, especially, and I expect this off a loss being at home, and that crowd's pretty good. They're a pretty good home crowd in Carolina. They always carry the play, and I expect them to carry the play significantly, especially early in the game tonight, Carolina. So that's going to go part and parcel with some of the props that I'm going to mention in just a bit that I like for this game here tonight. What do you think here, Alex? Game 3 as the scene shifts to Raleigh, Washington, Carolina.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good back and forth battle, but this is a Washington team, like I said, they have those veteran guys. They know how to deal in these playoff wars, like I was talking about with Florida. They know, the little ins and outs, the side games, if you will, mind games, if you will, that take place from game to game. And I have Washington to get on the board first. I bet them first goal, first period at plus 165. And that's not to say Carolina won't get on the board in the first. And I'm looking at FanDuel. You can kind of play around with some options. You can go first period, Carolina over half goals with Washington to score first. You get plus 380 on that. So there's a couple of combinations that you can fool around with. Obviously, that you get better price than even both teams to score when you're looking at that. So I do like both teams to score. You can play that plus 170, or you can get a little creative with it and go Washington to score the first goal with Carolina first period over a half. I also like this draw quite a bit. I bet that earlier today. I got plus 360 with that. I could definitely see this one kind of maybe tightening down late in the contest. Like I said, we see goals early, late second period, all the third period. This would be more of a defensive battle, and it could go into OT after that.
We've had back-to-back days with at least one of the two games going to overtime. We had Edmonton, Vegas on Thursday. We had Toronto, Florida last night. That's why I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start I think these series have shown they're pretty damn competitive for the most part, that if you sprinkle the draw in each game, there's a good chance you're going to be profitable. There really is. And we're starting to see that. These series are very close, very evenly matched. And the draw's got a higher probability because of that. So I think if you sprinkle the draw in each game, you probably may come out profitable in this round. I think there's a really good chance you do, because all you got to do is hit 1 out of 2, 1 out of every 3 even, and you're going to end up being profitable with that. Kyle, what are your thoughts here on this one? Game 3, Caps, Canes.
Looking forward to this game. I think Washington was tough to watch in game 1.
Really tough. Yeah. Put me to sleep. That's how tough it was.
But they came back out in game 2, and you sort of saw like the Tom Wilson, I think, kind of led the team, just started throwing his body around, super physical. Seemed like they started to settle in. Some of the younger guys seemed to find their game. So expecting a much closer game. I also expect Carolina to come out hot. So definitely like them first period goal. I like Washington from the odds perspective. If you're going to lean one way or the other, I'm not overly confident in Washington ultimately winning this game. And so I do actually also like the draw.
You go. There it is. Jonathan Davis has it for us. There's the numbers for the team that lost the previous game. The team that lost the previous game in a series is 31-13 to score a goal in the first period. They're 29-15 to score the first goal of the game, which is still pretty good. Problem is Carolina is going to be a crazy price to score the first goal of the game tonight. You got to go the first goal, first period method if you're going to take them to get anything reasonable on it. So that's the
or parlay it, parlay it with something.
Parlay it. Yeah, there you go. But the numbers, yes, have been excellent. There's no question about that. Good stuff indeed. Prop-wise, I'm more than just obviously you got to stick with the players that have been getting it done. As far as if you're going to go with points in this game, as far as point props, if you look at the players that are, John Carlson's 3 games with a point, Protas 2 straight games with a point for Washington. On the Carolina side, this is again with them being at home and Rod Brind'Amour having the opportunity to get last change going. Obviously, that's going to benefit the top line for the Carolina Hurricanes for sure. Aho, Svechnikov, and Jackson Blake. But Jackson Blake remains the value player on that line as far as their props, goal prop, assist prop, any points props. I still am going to come back to the well with Logan Stankoven as well for Carolina with Kotkaniemi and Taylor Hall and Jordan Martinook. Jordan Martinook's not going to hit every game, but like I said, he's that prototypical third-line player that often elevates his game offensively in the playoffs for Carolina. Like I said, I'm going to come back to the Protas well for Washington on that top line. McMichael and Wilson, I'm interested for the Caps as well. McMichael's had a really good series, and he's getting his nose dirty. That's what I like for sure about his game right now, Connor McMichael. And then I'm going to give you a betting concept to rock with and roll with in this game, in my opinion. Carolina's a high-volume shooting team, right? Especially at home. And off a loss, I really expect them to be a high-volume shooting team tonight. And they always are. They throw every puck at the net. That's been their style for years under Brind'Amour. Whether it's stacking or laddering or parlaying a slew of Carolina shots on goal props, Aho, Svechnikov, go on down. Those are the big ones that you definitely would want to target, is Aho and Svechnikov for sure on that top line for Carolina. But you parlay just a couple of shots on goal props, and you also maybe consider parlaying a couple of Seth Jarvis is another one, but a couple of Washington Capitals blocked shots props. And you target the one defenseman you may not want to put in block shot props for Washington is Carlson, just because he plays more of that offensive role too. I'm talking about the guys that are really the stay-at-home defensive type of defenseman on this Capitals team, like Trevor Van Riemsdyk. Rasmus Sandin's been a pretty good block shot candidate. Matt Roy. Those are the guys you really want to look at, as far as Jacob Chychrun has blocked, a decent amount of shots as well. Chychrun, Roy, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and Sandin. Even just parlaying them for 2 blocked shots to be safe. Because the one thing about blocked shots is I've seen stat corrections with them too, like shots on goal. And I've seen guys that had 3 blocked shots and they get knocked back down to 2, or they take one away. So just being safe and maybe stringing together a parlay of 2 block shots or more for Sandin, Chychrun, Roy and Trevor Van Riemsdyk. I think that makes sense here, because Carolina's going to shoot a ton in this game. You just know it. The shot attempts, there's going to be probably 80, 90 shot attempts in this game for Carolina. That's just what they do. I'm no joke. No lie. I mean, that could happen. That's how much this team shoots the puck. And at home off a loss, I expect it to be 10 times the emphasis on getting every puck that they can directed toward the net at Logan Thompson. So I would expect them to have, 80 shot attempts in this game. There's been games in this series they had 25, 30 shot attempts in one period. So I think that, 80 shot attempts for the Carolina Hurricanes is very doable. So whether it's, get creative, experiment, be that betting scientist in the lab. Get your Bunsen burners out. Get your beakers out. Let's go here. Let's do some experimenting with this game. Carolina shots on goal props. Washington blocked shots props. Target them. Dabble. Mix and match. Maybe you put 2 guys, Roy and Chychrun together. Trevor Van Riemsdyk and Sandin together for block shots. You go Aho and Svechnikov for shots on goal for Carolina. You go Thompson over saves, Aaron, 100%. That's part of the concept. We expect Carolina to be shooting the puck a ton. So Logan Thompson over saves for Washington makes a lot of sense. You could ladder his saves prop, 30, 35, 40 saves. This could be a 30, 35, 40 save night for Logan Thompson. Definitely it could. And you can get, plus 500, 10 to 1, 15 to 1, the higher you go with Logan Thompson saves in this game tonight. So that's the concept. Think Hurricanes shots on goal, think Capitals blocked shots, and think Logan Thompson over saves in this game. So I think all of those have it's a good theory. It's a good strategy to go with. And I think there's a chance you'll be able to make money betting this game that way here tonight with Washington and Carolina. Kyle, what do you think of that? Does that make sense to you?
I love it. Hadn't gone there. I'm not a big shots on goal guy.
I'm not either.
From a betting perspective, yeah. But guys are going to be getting in lanes, blocking shots.
Yep.
So from the block shots, ton of sense. Obviously, to get the odds more in your favor, parlaying that, also love that. So yeah, I love the logic. I will be jumping in on that.
It makes sense. And there's Jonathan Davis, man. This guy's he's a machine, man. He's a calculator. He's a computer that disguised as a human being. I'm convinced of that. Chychrun, 23 blocks. Roy, 20 blocks. Sandin, 18. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, 12. And just what I figured, Carlson's probably at the low end of that spec. That's why I'd keep Carlson out of it. I'd really look more toward TVR, Sandin, Roy, Chychrun as far as the Capitals blocked shots here in this game. And it is official, says Brewski. Skinner officially announced as the starting goaltender for Edmonton here tonight in Game 3. Great segue to go to Vegas and Edmonton. We've got Edmonton minus 120, home favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. Oilers leading the series, 2-0, of course, getting both wins in Vegas, including a thrilling game in Game 2, overtime win. If you like Vegas, maybe you do take him full game, but if you like Vegas, why don't you just bet him first period or score the first goal or goal in the first period? Because that's what they've done in this series. Even in the 2 games they lost, they scored in the first period. They got the first goal. And I think they won the first period, both games as well. Yeah, they were up 2-1, I think, after the first period in game 1, and they were up 1-0 in the first period after game 2. So I even like that. Like anything Vegas first period, I like it. They gotta come out just storming, very much so like we saw from Winnipeg last night, because this is also Edmonton has got the two of the best, maybe the 2 best players going right now on their team that got him to a Stanley Cup final last year. McDavid and Draisaitl. I don't care who's in net. You could stick our old friend Farmer in the Dell, Aaron Dell in net for Edmonton tonight. You're always going to have a chance to win a game with McDavid and Draisaitl on the ice and the way you're playing right now. Scoring goals and your defense has been a little bit better. I know Alex is looking like maybe that's a little bit of a stretch.
That's a stretch. Dell's a stretch, but yeah.
We didn't think the Oilers would be able to overcome Pickard and Skinner here throughout the course of these playoffs, and yet somehow they have. But the bottom line is Vegas has still gotten off to good starts, and they absolutely have to get off to a good start. But this series, and we've seen it now, this has been Edmonton in these 6 consecutive playoff wins, going back to Game 5 against Los Angeles, where even in those games, other than Game 5 in LA, but they still do start a little bit sluggish, and then they get better as the game goes on. It's been the opponent early, and Edmonton gets better and stronger, and they find ways to come back later in the game. And Perlo, by the way, we didn't mention this. He likes Carolina first period goal, Washington second period goal parlay in the first game, which I agree with. I think that makes sense. Washington has scored a second period goal in both games in that series, and I expect Carolina to get on the board in the first period. I know Perlo likes Vegas first period goal, Edmonton second period goal in this game tonight. That also makes sense. Vegas has been the better team in the first period. Edmonton's gotten going second period and beyond, and Edmonton scored in the second period of each game in this series as well. So you look at it, it's been, actually, no, I think now that I think of it, I don't think they got on the board in the second period in game 2. Let me just double check on that. Oh, they did. Oh, yeah, they scored 3 in that second period. It was all at the end of the period. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense too. I like Vegas obviously to score in the first period. No doubt about it. I think they do. They scored in the first period in both of the games in this series in Vegas, even though they lost those games. I expect them to have that aggressive, we got to come out with our season on the line, backs against the wall mentality early. So Vegas first period goal, the run is 31-13 in the playoffs for the team that lost the previous game, scoring in the first period. So we're on that. Vegas, big price, but like I said, worth laying. And I'm back on the over by Fecta here. I am. I mean, I just feel like, now they could want to dig in here for Skinner, this defense, but the way the pace has been in this series, I'm not convinced of it. And then you look at the home ice game, the games in the playoffs that have taken place in Edmonton. Now, this is going to be the first game in this series in Edmonton, but look at the games against LA in the first round. 7-4, 6-4, 4-3. Games flew over the total. They were all track meets, every single one of them. And like I said, I don't feel comfortable. I feel if you're going to bet unders in this series, you're holding your breath. You're just, you're biting your fingernails. It's a heart attack waiting to happen. You're going to be stressing it out for the whole game, betting an under in this series with the way the pace has been, with the issues Vegas has had, defensively, with the issues Edmonton at times still has, even though that blue line is without Matthias Ekholm has given you everything they have. And then, of course, you've got Aiden Hill playing at a subpar level. He has not played well in the playoffs more often than not, and I think he's gotten a little bit worse here in this series than he was against Minnesota in the first round. And now with Skinner likely starting in net with Pickard sidelined, he was awful in the first 2 games against Los Angeles when he started against the Kings. To me, it's too much. Too much that I would be worried about betting anything under here in this game tonight. So I'm going to take the over by Fecta here as well. I haven't decided who I think is going to win this game. I don't think we've heard the last of Vegas. Vegas is going to show you that championship, pedigree, I think, tonight, as far as the effort, the urgency, the desperation. This has to be a Jack Eichel response game in my opinion. He's had a shaky first 2 games. Everyone saw him get cooked, skewered, roasted, whatever fucking word you want to use, by Connor McDavid in overtime of Game 2. He's got to step up for the Vegas Golden. That whole line, Stone and close shave Barbashev, they need all of those guys to really step their game up, and they need a little bit more punch from the bottom guys as well. And big break Vegas got in Nick Waugh not getting suspended. They only fined him a shit ton of money. They threw the fine book at him, but they did not suspend him for that blatant cross-check to the face the other night there in overtime against Edmonton. And he got away with that. I thought he should have gotten something for it, but he didn't. I guess they figured, too, that the 5-minute major and the game misconduct was enough of a penalty for that incident. But, Vegas got away with it, or they got away with one, Vegas, not having Nick Waugh suspended for this game. The question is there punishment from Cassidy? Does he kind of sit him down after just an egregious mistake that nearly cost his team the game? It doesn't look like it right now. As of now, they've still got Waugh on that fourth line with Colasar and Pearson for the Vegas Golden Knights. And by the way, Braden McNabb, how that was not a penalty is mind-boggling to me. That crash into the end boards in overtime, that absolutely should. Vegas has a legit beef there. That should have been a penalty, but Braden McNabb got injured in overtime, favoring his shoulder. He's a game-time decision for this game tonight for Vegas. So Braden McNabb's one of their most relied-upon blue liners, blocks a shit ton of shots, great defensively. If he doesn't play tonight, we'll probably have to stick Caden Korzak or Ben Hutton. Probably be the likely candidates to come into the lineup for Vegas here tonight. So pre-game, I like Vegas to score in the first period, and I like the over by Facta. And I'm going to sprinkle on the draw. Alex, what do you think here, Vegas, Edmonton?
So this is the game where I kind of got in the lab and got creative. I like goals early from Vegas. I took a shot with them first period to score the first goal. I got that plus 125. But I also did a little parlay with the over 1.5 and Vegas to score first goal in the first period to bump that up to plus 180 rather than laying minus 166, minus 150 with some of these prices you're saying. Of course, you can always wait live and grab first period over as well. But and then I took one more shot, correct score in the first period, 2-1 Vegas plus 1,200. So I like it first period looks in this one. I do like Vegas to win this game. I would go with the MGM route, maybe go with Vegas money line and over 4.5. You get that plus 135 at BetMGM. Even the old Matty Rob special is good as well. First period over and over 5.5. So those are things I'll have a little piece of all of those in pocket tonight.
Yeah, let's give a little props to Alex for that approach last night with Dallas and Winnipeg, where he went with Jets and over 3.5. It cashed. Jets and under 6.5, and it cashed. Both of them. Yeah, great approach.
Under 7.5 with that. With the other
under 7.5 with that. Yeah, you might want. Hell, you may need under 8.5 in this game tonight.
Yeah. Under's not advised in this one.
No, it's just until I see it. I mean,
yeah.
Now I know Game 1 barely stayed under. It was 4-2. But there were more than enough pace and there was more than enough pace and more than enough chances for that game to go over. It was definitely not an under pace or an under game as far as the style of play, and obviously Game 2 is not. So, and these Edmonton home games, at least in the Kings series, like they were rocking chair over winners. All 3 games in the Edmonton LA series that were played here in Edmonton. So, yeah, like I said, it's hold your breath if you're daring enough to bet an under, in my opinion, with these teams here tonight. Kyle, what do you think here, Vegas, Edmonton?
I'm, to be honest, been a bit of a pretzel with the Pickard-Skinner situation. I played with Pickard, so biased and lean that way. But he's been the hot hand.
You got to be impressed, man. He's given them everything he's got. It's been impressive.
And I get he's not like this tenured NHL, been there, done that guy, but like the wheel's not broken, why fix it, sort of thing. And like I feel like the mentality on the team, there's a level of like, all right, we're going back to the guy who started the playoffs 0-2. So
this is definitely an injury. This is not him getting. This is not a goalie switch. This is definitely Calvin Pickard's injured. Something.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah. Because I was like, what's going on here? Anyways, Vegas.
Chris Knobloch just said it. Like literally seconds ago, I'm seeing Gene Principe's tweet right here. Just like literally seconds ago, he's doing his press conference right now. Chris Knobloch. Seconds ago, he said Calvin Pickard is day to day. Stuart Skinner's our starting goalie tonight. So it's definitely an injury.
Got it. Okay, that makes more sense. Like Vegas, though, their backs are against the wall. They've been there, done that. Championship team. Odds are in their favor. So definitely go in that direction. I do like them to come out, score in the first period. I'm going to continue riding that wave with you guys. Hard not to. And then as everyone's sort of been reiterating, definitely the over. I think there's a number of different ways you can take it, whether it's the first period over in the game, get creative. But those are my 3 bets, Vegas over and Vegas to score in the first period.
There you go. I think we're all singing from the same songbook here when it comes to Vegas, and at least with Vegas getting on the board early here in the opening period. Not to mention that, but Vegas is going to figure with Skinner getting back in net and starting for the first time, and I would say, probably a couple of weeks now since the last time we saw him in the LA series. Throw the puck at him.
Confidence is not high.
Force him to make saves early. Test how, in rhythm he is and how confident he is right away. I'm sure that's going to be the mantra from Bruce Cassidy and the coaching staff tonight for the Vegas Golden Knights. So that's why Vegas shots on goal, I think, are of interest to me. This got to be a Jack Eichel night. He's the guy that's the catalyst for this team. He's the best player on this Vegas team. He's got to pick it up again, and he did as the series went on. The one thing I want to point out, too, about Vegas, why I don't think they're out of this series yet, it was looking bleak at one point against Minnesota. They were down 2-1, and they had to play a game in Minnesota, a game 4. And if they lose that game, they're down 3-1 in the series. And it was not an easy game. It was a back-and-forth game 4, but they found a way to win that game 4.
This is
so
after
you can't underestimate the resolve of Vegas.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And also, it was Minnesota involved. So, a chance for them to do something big in the playoffs. Of course, they screwed up.
Yeah, they're a bit of a cursed, fucking horrific sports town as far as playoffs. Kyle, we've talked about this on the show before. What Minnesota teams have had a boatload of playoff success in the last 30 years, besides maybe the Timberwolves a little bit these last couple of years in the NBA? Twins never win a big-time playoff series. They get just destroyed by the Yankees half the time in all those playoff series in baseball. The Vikings always, they tease you with maybe a wild card win or something, and then by the divisional round, the Vikings are always out. The Wild always go out in the first round. It's a tough
competitive, but no.
Gophers always find a way to lose to literally one of the worst teams as soon as they make the NCAA tournament. They can't win a conference tournament in hockey.
Sort of sounds like Toronto.
At least they have the Raptors from 6 years ago where they won the NBA championship with Kawhi and Fred VanVleet and all those guys. They beat Golden State. That's really the only bright light here for. I'm not putting the TFC in there. TFC for me is I'm talking big 4 sports, major 4 sports. MLS ain't it still for me. Sorry. I know people love soccer. There's people out there that love soccer. MLS is not a major league.
Not yet.
Not the big 4 I'm talking about. Maybe it's 5th after NHL. Even then, it may not be 5th. I'm talking about big 4, like the standard for decades and eons. What have been the big 4 sports in North America? Hockey, football, basketball, baseball. Those have been the 4 big sports. Those are the ones I'm talking about. The only good thing for Toronto in these last decades is the Raptors from 2019. That's it. The one championship, and they've had a tough time. But still, Minnesota's like, can we have that? Can we at least have one? They're actually looking at Toronto, and they're jealous. How fucking horrific is that? They're looking at Toronto instead jealous of what Toronto's got. That's the tough part. Just be thankful you're in Boston now, Kyle. I mean, they don't have. I don't want to hear shit as far as complaints from those people.
Right? Yeah.
All the success there, and I know the Bruins are in a bit of a downturn right now. Are you getting on people? Are you giving people the old gears there in Boston for the Bruins sucking right now?
They don't even want to talk about it, and it's tough because then they just bring up the Celtics. And it's like, all right.
I don't know if they want to bring up the Celtics right now, though.
Not right now, but in general, it's like there's always one team that seems to be contending.
Let's get a little thought on that. I know it's a hockey show, but that's a big-time Knicks Celtics Game 3 this afternoon. Even I'll be watching that. I'm actually excited for that game. It's a huge game because I think the Knicks win the series if they win that game. I think there's a chance the Knicks lose the series, believe it or not, if they lose this game today. and they open
All
the
the
door to
momentum
Boston.
shifts back to New York.
Yeah.
That's biggest game of that series for sure. It's a Game 7 kind of feel to that game.
And what the beautiful thing is, it's a 3:30 start. It's going to be on, and it'll probably be done by the time the first hockey game starts.
Yep.
So the timing couldn't be perfect. Couldn't be any better for that. So I'm sure they're on pins and needles, Kyle, in your neck of the woods right now.
It was a dark day around Boston on Thursday. No one wanted to talk about it.
I mean, blowing 20-point leads 2 games in a row. Yeah, no question. That is pretty staggering. Oh, yeah, props for this game, just briefly before we wrap it up. 6 is still one of the best bets going. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, point prop. 6 straight games with a point for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins for Edmonton, and it's still only minus 130 for him to get a point. Or you could do the goal-assist split as well. Mark Stone's got 5 straight games with a point. Zach Hyman, he's only minus 110 to get a point. He's now gotten a point in 3 straight games. Evander Kane, Corey Perry, William Karlsson are on 2-game point streaks for their respective teams entering tonight. So keep an eye on that. Vasily Podkolzin, I'm telling you what, 10-1 for him to score a goal. And he got one of the goals the other night for the Edmonton Oilers in Vegas in Game 2. I know he's down the lineup a little bit, but the guy that's found a little confidence. But again, I'm going to go back to my 3 favorite Oiler props are Nugent-Hopkins, Perry, and Brown. Corey Perry, Connor Brown remain incredibly undervalued. It would not shock me to see them make another impact on the game offensively. Brown's been great in the playoffs. He's been scoring and chipping in points and assists. Perry, the same thing, playing with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. As of now, it looks like Chris Knobloch's going to keep that line together. And for Vegas, I would look at I would keep it simple and say, you know what, Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, we need you tonight. So I'm actually going to dabble in over 1.5 points for Jack Eichel tonight. I don't do the over 1.5 points very often, player props, but I think he's got to have that response game. And I think he's going to want to. Like, what's the last image we all have in our minds from Jack Eichel from Game 2? Getting absolutely just abused in the neutral zone by Connor McDavid on the overtime game-winning goal. That's the lasting memory we have of Jack Eichel, the most recent memory. He's going to want to change that tonight. So I think it's a good night to maybe look at Eichel as far as, obviously his point prop on its own is too expensive, but maybe look at over 1.5 points. Hell, maybe even dabble in over 2.5 points. I think if Vegas scores goals and wins tonight, he's going to have a big, big part of it for the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. So something to consider there. Great stuff with Kyle Bond and, of course, with Alex from Chicago. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you hit the like button and make sure you sign up at patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. Goalie charts, totals charts, our daily betting cards, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. We will make the announcement on the show tomorrow regarding the date for the Betcast. It's not going to be Thursday this week, by the way. So just make sure you are aware of that. It's going to be a little earlier in the week this week, the next Betcast, and we'll announce that on the show tomorrow. So check it out, patreon.com/iceguys. And this is another Patreon exclusive live Betcast coming up this week. So make sure if you want to join us for that Betcast, you sign up as a member on the Patreon page. Again, your subscription goes a long way to supporting the show. $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys.
Also, check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. It's nice and warm. It's about to get really warm around here in the States in the next couple of days. Great time to get a T-shirt. Great time to get a new cap. We got a lot of summer merch as well, but we also got the classic hoodies. We've got all kinds of different things in the store right now, so definitely check that on out. That's over at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
And give some merch and gear love to our guys, Maddie and Ryan Robinson, too.
Yeah,
Robinson's
gear. Merch. Yeah,
Robinson's merch
fantastic.
in the chat. No doubt. Make sure you check
I'm
that out.
I'm buying a shirt if Dallas can win the West. So
yeah, no doubt. I think I probably giddy up. I would too.
Yeah.
If Dallas has a big run, no doubt. Good stuff. All right, we got bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Tailgaters Social, And a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
Hey, Alex, have you checked out the latest with the great trading platform Kalshi?
Yes, I have. It's been fantastic. This is one of the first and only federally regulated prediction markets in the U.S. And if you're looking for odds for all kinds of different things, not just what we're talking about, the markets in the Stanley Cup, the NBA Finals, you can trade with crypto. You can look for trades within the markets involving entertainment, politics. There's all kinds of different markets you can look for. I mean, you can use the odds over at Kalshi.
Time of year to get involved with Kalshi. Certainly if you're a sports fan, Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA playoffs, baseball now underway, with all the different markets to create winning trades. Make sure you're checking out all that Kalshi has to offer.
Absolutely. And if you're trading with Kalshi, use the link kalshi.com/iceguys. You trade $100 or more, they will send you $10 back. So it's fantastic to use. Like I said, any kind of markets beyond sports. We're talking entertainment, politics, crypto, basically anything you want.
So make sure you sign up, kalshi.com/iceguys. Note that it's live on Robinhood and available in all 50 states, making it the first legal place to trade on these kind of events nationwide. Check it out, kalshi.com/iceguys. Shout out to all our great sponsors. Boston Hemp Inc., 20% off using the promo code IceGuys. And, of course, kalshi.com/iceguys. Great trading platform. Make sure you check that out. I'm not doubting the Oilers, our guy Bear Paw. I like the Oilers. I took the Oilers in Game 1 and Game 2 in this series. I'm not taking them tonight because I think Vegas throws their best punch at Edmonton, but I'm not taking Vegas for the full game. I'm asking them to score in the first period. That's all I'm asking Vegas to do for me.
He's probably talking about me because I'm in Vegas tonight. So
yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah, like I said, I was on the fence with this series. I was not strong on making a pick, but I did end up picking, and you can go back and watch the second round preview we did on Monday. I did end up picking Edmonton. I just thought that I didn't trust Vegas enough, and Edmonton's starting to come to life at the end of the LA series, the pedigree of getting to the final last year. But like I said, I didn't expect them to be up 2-0 though and win both games in Vegas, but they did. And now Vegas got to find a way here tonight. All right, bargain bin special of the night. We need to find a way to try to cash one of these things here tonight on the Saturday slate. But Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for bargain bin special?
Let's go to that first game, Washington, Carolina. Like I said, I trust in the Caps to show up on the road. And one of the guys I think will get a goal tonight will be Connor McMichael. You get him anytime goal scorer, plus 360 over at FanDuel. So that's my Saturday bargain bin special. Connor McMichael, the Washington Capitals.
All right, Connor McMichael for Washington, plus 360 for Alex B. Smith with his bargain bin special tonight. Kyle Bond, great job again on this Saturday show. What do you think for bargain bin special? Who are you liking?
Going a little risky here, but Jack Eichel, like we've been talking about, needs to have a big game. First period, anytime goal scorer, plus 650.
There you go. So that's not first? Is that first goal or first period goal?
First period, anytime goal scorer.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, just wanted to clarify.
It's very, very specific.
It is. There's a huge ass difference, no doubt. He could get the second goal of the first period, and it hits. Whereas if you screw up and you mistake that for first goal of the game, you're not going to win. So very important to distingush that. So this is Jack Eichel. That's a great one. I really like that one, actually.
I do too. I do too.
Going to step up. He has to for the Vegas Golden Knights. Jack Eichel, first period goal, plus 650 for Kyle Bond and his bargain bin special tonight, which is actually a really good one. I got two for you, one from each game. Jordan Martinook, Carolina, plus 500. It's just, I think it feels like that time of the series for Jordan Martinook to make a big time play and score. Remember, he got a short and a goal at home in the series against New Jersey in the first round. And plus 500 for Jordan Martinook for Carolina. I like that one. And I'm going back to the well with the red-headed stepchild, Connor Brown for the Edmonton Oilers in the plus 550 for Connor Brown to find the back of the net for the Edmonton Oilers. So there you go. Jordan Martinook, Carolina, plus 5. Great prices. Jordan Martinook, Carolina, plus 500. Connor Brown, Edmonton, plus 550 for my two bargain bin specials of the night for this Saturday. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, let's go up to Edmonton, and we will back Vegas here. We'll go with that BetMGM parlay of Vegas money line and over 4.5 goals. You grab that plus 135. Like I said, I think this is going to be a back-and-forth series. I did bet the 6-game, 7-game split for a reason. I think Vegas gets their first win in this series here. So Vegas with the over 4.5 plus 135. That's my Saturday best bet.
Vegas and over 4.5 plus 135. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. Kyle, what do you got for best bet?
Going with another player prop. Alex Ovechkin hasn't got a goal yet this series. If Washington wants to win on the road, they're going to need him to do something. Anytime goal scorer plus 145.
All right, there we go. Alex Ovechkin, the grade 8, the all-time leading NHL goal scorer, to finally do what we've become accustomed to. Score! We'll see if he can do that tonight. Plus 145 for Washington. Alex Ovechkin for Kyle Bond. And his best bet. My best bet for this Saturday slate. Let's just go back to Vegas Edmonton over 6.5 until I see these teams tighten up. I think it's another game with goals in it. First period over. I'm on the bifecta in this game, but we'll go with the full game over as best bet. Vegas Edmonton 3-0 to the over, by the way, in the playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers in their home games in the LA series. All 3 games flew over the total, so we'll lock that in for best bet. Vegas, Edmonton, over 6.5, minus 125 for my best bet here for this Saturday NHL Stanley Cup playoff slate. Great stuff. Kyle Bond joining us again on the Saturday. I think Kyle's got another free Saturday in a couple weeks or something, but he'll be back at least one more time before the end of the playoffs on a Saturday. Great stuff. We've got Oscar Froberg, our goalie friend from Sweden, joining us again on the show on Monday. Looking forward to that. He'll join me and Perlo on that show. Coming up. It'll be me solo on the show tomorrow. We'll do a quick Sunday show for you.
There will be a bargain bin for my mom, though. So we're working on that tonight. Yeah. So I will be sending in Mama Smith's bargain bin to Ian, and I will have that for tomorrow's show.
Yeah, sometimes Mama Smith's win percentage is better than ours, so you better pay attention to her bargain bin special selection tomorrow on the show. But great stuff. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith and Kyle Bond, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And back with you tomorrow on Sunday, noon Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys.